Welcome back to the channel. Today, we have to talk about something that goes far beyond politics, far beyond one man. Conservative activist Charlie Kirk has been made unalive during a public appearance in Utah. But this story isn't just about what happened on that stage. It's about why it happened. Why do some people feel so threatened by words that they choose violence over debate? Why do we live in a culture where, instead of responding with stronger ideas, people resort to trying to erase the person speaking? Let's break down his life, his rise, and the uncomfortable truth about what his unaliving really says about our society. Charlie Kirk wasn't born into the political machine. He was a kid from suburban Chicago who saw the culture wars heating up and decided to dive in headfirst. At just 18 years old, when most people are still figuring out who they are, he co-founded Turning Point USA. It started small, a booth at a college event, a handful of students, a vision. But Kirk had something that others didn't: fearlessness. He was blunt, sharp, and willing to say the things that would make half the room cheer and the other half storm out. Within a few short years, Turning Point USA exploded across college campuses, becoming a massive conservative youth organisation. Suddenly, Charlie Kirk wasn't just a student activist. He was a national voice. As his platform grew, so did the controversy. Kirk leaned into it. He wasn't trying to be agreeable. He wasn't trying to win over everyone. His brand was about being unapologetic, about calling out what he saw as lies in the culture. To his supporters, he was a warrior, someone brave enough to fight back against what they believed was a suffocating political correctness. To his critics, he was toxic, an instigator who thrived on division. But whether you loved him or hated him, you listened. And that's what made him dangerous to some. Because a voice that gets attention is a voice that can't be ignored. Fast forward to September 2025, Utah Valley University, another stop on his American comeback tour. Kirk walked onto that stage to do what he had done hundreds of times before: speak his truth to an audience. The room was filled with students, supporters, and no doubt critics, ready to challenge him during Q&A. But then, in an instant, everything changed. Witnesses described a sharp sound, a pew 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 that broke through the hall. Chaos erupted. People screamed, some ducked, others ran. On stage, Kirk collapsed. Within moments, he was unalive. The energy of debate, of conversation, of clashing ideas was replaced with panic and silence. The aftermath was immediate. Supporters mourned. Critics, even those who disagreed with him fiercely, condemned the act. Leaders across the spectrum said what needed to be said. This was wrong. President Trump called him a legend, ordering flags at half-staff. Commentators asked how America had reached the point where political disagreements no longer stay in the realm of words, but spill into violence. And here's where the debate gets real. What does it say about us, about society, when people believe the only way to silence a voice is to eliminate? When people believe the only way to silence a voice is to eliminate the person speaking, if your ideas are strong, you test them against stronger ideas. You don't erase the opponent, you out-reason them. When that doesn't happen, when someone chooses harm over argument, that's not courage, that's fear in a mask. The debate: weakness disguised as strength. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Making someone unalive doesn't settle a debate. It proves there wasn't an argument ready to stand on its own. If a culture can't handle sharp speech, harsh critiques, and clashing viewpoints, that culture isn't resilient, it's brittle. Ask yourself, which society is stronger? The one that lets a controversial speaker talk and then dismantles his points, or the one that panics at a microphone and tries to stop the noise by force? One model breeds sharper minds, the other breeds silence and suspicion. and the silence never lasts. Because ideas don't vanish when a voice is cut short. They echo. They travel further. The attempt to mute them becomes the megaphone that blasts them across the world. Why Kirk's voice drew fire. Charlie Kirk specialised in provocation. Call it truth-telling, call it agitation, call it both. He stepped onto campuses where conformity often feels safer than confrontation. He insisted that young people argue, challenge and push back. He thrived on friction. To supporters, he was an antidote to groupthink. To critics, he was the accelerant of division. But that's precisely why his events mattered, because a free society needs friction. Sand without friction never turns into pearl. It just sinks to the bottom. The moment, the aftermath. In that Utah hole, one sharp pew-pew ripped the oxygen out of the room. The debate that should have unfolded, questions, rebuttals, applause, groans, was replaced with chaos. In minutes, a public forum became a trauma scene, and a speaker was unalive. Afterward, lines formed fast: grief, anger, condemnation. People who'd argued with Kirk's every sentence still said the only right thing to say, "This is wrong." Others demanded safety without surrendering speech. Leaders called for calm. Commentators asked the bigger question: how did we get here? What this says about us. When disagreement escalates into erasure, it tells us the trust between citizens is thin. It tells us that many don't believe the arena of ideas works anymore, that the scoreboard can be smashed when the numbers don't go our way. But the arena of ideas is the only scoreboard that matters in a free society. If you believe in your worldview, you should want more speech, more debate, more chances to show your case wins on the merits. If you don't, you'll always be tempted to trade persuasion for power. The legacy of words. Charlie Kirk's legacy, like him or not, is a lesson in what words can do. Words can build movements. Words can unite, divide, provoke and expose. Words can invite rebuttal or, if people grow too fragile, invite attempts at erasure. He built a platform on the premise that conviction should be said out loud, even if it sets the room on fire, metaphorically. He believed the answer to a speech you despise is a better speech, not a pew-pew. That belief is the principle on trial now. Far bigger than one man, bigger than one moment. The test ahead. So here's the test for all of us. Do we choose debate over destruction? Do we practice the tolerance we demand of others? Do we accept that the price of freedom is sometimes being offended and then replying with sharper thinking instead of sharper acts? Because if we fail this test, we don't just lose one voice, we lose the space where every voice can stand and be challenged. And that space is the difference between a confident nation and a frightened one. Closing reflection. The unaliving at that university didn't prove any worldview correct. It proved that cowardice sometimes dresses up as righteousness. It proved that some would rather end a sentence than answer it. Strength isn't the ability to make someone unalive. Strength is the ability to hear what you hate and then defeat it with something better. What do you think? Was Charlie Kirk a necessary countervoice in a culture afraid of friction? Or a provocateur whose style made honest dialogue harder? And more importantly, how do we make sure the answer to speech we dislike is debate, not a pew-pew? Drop your thoughts below. If you value open arguments over closed mouths, hit like, subscribe and share this video. Until next time, stay sharp, stay questioning, and never stop debating.